It's time for you to make dating successful. The do's and don'ts of successful dating are right here. Now, the first thing that you think about in dating is usually finding a mate. And that's not what we're going to talk about first. We're going to get to that, but this is a series and we're going to talk about a few different things. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is you. And the reason why we're going to start off with you is because that is what finding a successful dating situation is all about, is knowing who you are first before you move on to finding someone for you. And what I mean by knowing who you are, which seems like such a simple thing, but really is more complex than that. Knowing who you are is a soul-searching, understanding, inside and out, understanding of who you are. Now, one of the reasons why I say this is because I've had people come and ask me questions about their mate. And when they find someone new and they've been dating for maybe a month, then they come and they say, well, this person is so great, but there's one thing that I don't like. Now, the perfect person, the perfect mate that we find for ourselves is not someone that's 100% tailored to who we are. It's someone that I say is 75% of everything we like about the person, and then the other 25% is not a deal breaker. How do we know what a deal breaker is unless we actually know ourselves? This is why we need to really know ourselves. This is why we really need to know who we are, because the deal breaker is the important part here. Now, the person who came to me and wants to know about a situation they've been in for a month is questioning themselves because they have an issue and they're not sure how they feel about the issue. Well, when you know yourself, you know pretty quickly how you feel about any or most issues. You can look at a situation or a person and you can say, well, this is not something I can live with. Because one of the things that in the dating situation that I recommend is never just trying to tolerate something thinking that it will change. So when you look at a person, you have to consider that the person is doing what they enjoy doing, being who they enjoy being. So if this is not something that you can live with, because it is in fact a deal breaker, then you need to exit the situation. But the only way that you're going to know this is to know yourself well enough to know a year or two down the road, this is really going to get to me. Possibly not even that long, maybe a couple of months. But these things you have to know about yourself to know whether or not you can stand the test of time, the long term. And this is what we're getting at, the long-term situation in a relationship. The next point that I like to touch on is, in your last 2 or 3 relationships, what happened? What happened to those situations? Was it you? Was it the other person? And even if it was the other person, what was it about the other people in the situation? Relationships 1, 2, 3. What did they do? Why did it come to an end? You need to understand this because you could be finding yourself in a pattern. This pattern could be whether you are the problem. And maybe you, I don't know, you may have like situations with maybe you're a pack rat. Maybe you like a hoarder. Maybe you should be on a TV show and you like to keep a lot of clutter. If that's the case, then that's something that you need to change within yourself. It could be as simple as maybe you just have a negative outlook on life. And after a while, this rubs people wrong. I recently told a friend, and she was asking me about why am I having difficulty in relationships? And my answer was to her as a friend, because she's a close friend and I've talked to her a lot. I said, well, one of the reasons I can imagine that a man might have difficulty being with you is because you talk a lot, but you don't listen. Because in our conversations a lot of times, and this is because maybe I'm a friend so I can have a different situation with her, I have to silence her in order that she can hear what I'm saying. Well, this is tiring. Talking to someone on occasion, this can be okay. She's a friend. We go out. We have a good time together. Fine. But when you're in a situation, a relationship, when you're going to be talking to someone every day, I can't imagine talking to someone that's not listening to what I have to say, especially when they're quite loquacious themselves. So they like to talk, but they don't like to listen. This will be a problem in most situations. So I had to point this out, and believe it or not, she did not know this about herself. And even when I was trying to explain this to her, I had to point out that she was cutting me off and starting to talk over me, even when I'm explaining what she's asking. So we have to really know ourselves in these situations to know what things we could possibly be doing in order to make someone else uncomfortable in a relationship. So likewise, now we've talked about what you might be doing in a situation. It could be a problem. But when we think about maybe in the last 3 situations you've broken up because of the people that you were with were the problem. But what were their problems? Was it maybe they were inconsiderate? Maybe that was the situation. Maybe the last 3 relationships, they were inconsiderate. Well, consider, if you've been with 3 situations and 3 situations have ended all for similar reasons, then why are you choosing people that would end up being inconsiderate? What is it about you that either you're picking people or people are gravitating towards you that are inconsiderate? So think about this. And the only way to truly know the answer to this is to know who you are. And this is why it's very important to know who you are and to understand who you are. And the third point I'll bring up is, are you happy with yourself? A lot of times when we're not happy within ourselves, we look for things on the outside in order to bring them into our situation to cause us to be happy. That is incorrect. Find happiness within yourself, otherwise you will simply make other people miserable too. So if you can't find happiness within yourself, then perhaps you should learn first how to be happy before you incorporate someone else into your life, because people don't necessarily make us happy. They only add to our happiness. So if you're already happy and you want to add to that happiness, then you incorporate other things into your life. Just like the old saying, money can't buy you love, or money can't buy you happiness. Things, possessions, that's already been proven over and over again that these things don't make us happy. You have to be happy first in order to experience happiness with another person or happiness with situations or even objects. But first you need to be happy with you. And this is very important. Find happiness in yourself first, and then you venture out to be happy in situations. This happiness is going to actually help you in the situation, because when you're happy, you bring happy energy into your life and you bring happy things towards you. So you're going to attract what you feel. So until you can experience that happiness, you should not be venturing out to find someone else, because if you're not happy, you can expect that eventually your situation is going to break down one way or another, or you're going to attract things that are unhappy, negative things into your life. You don't want that. So, like I said, this is a series, so in the next part, what we're going to be talking about is who you should be looking for. What type of mate should you be looking for? Before we can get to that, the first thing you need to do is know who you are, and also you must be happy within yourself. You must have a stable environment for someone to come into, to incorporate someone in order to bring a stable person so you all can have stability in a relationship. And then we'll get to the next segment of this whole situation, of the relationship situation, and we'll talk about who you should be looking for in a mate. This is Lawrence Ward with Trust and Truth. You're worth it.